I think if you can hear us, then put a comment so that I know that we are live and we're not just talking among ourselves. Although it would be also very cool to talk about things, just the six of us, you know. But first of all, thank you everybody for joining for this stream. And put in the comments where are you from. We'll say hello. I know a few of you are watching, so we'd love to say hi to everybody. And we are gonna start with Tom. Tom, hello. How are you? And what have you been up to?
Hi, everybody. Tom Kachara, Lisa's husband, and I'm going to moderate tonight. And Lisa and I have been doing a little bit of traveling around the East Coast, up and down, photographing, and just having a ball. And Lisa's going to take over, and with the some of the programs. So glad to see everybody.
I've already seen Lisa doing this.
So
Lisa,
wants to be
how are you?
moderating
What have you?
comment. So we are really excited. We've been doing a lot of photography, but we also have been amongst all of us ambassadors having some regular conversations, and some great ideas have been coming as a result of those conversations. So we are here to actually talk about one of those ideas that I thought deserved kind of a little bit of a bunch of us ambassadors getting together to do. So last year, it was the second birthday of OM System, and we did some, some of the ambassadors did some Zooms and some did some live workshops. And I thought, why not have a summit where we have a bunch of us actually get together? So I talked to some people, and some were already out of the country and previously engaged, but we were able to get together, all of us, and including Joe McDonald is actually out of the country right now, couldn't join us tonight, but he will be joining us to give us a presentation for the actual event. So during that session, there's going to be all of us doing a 1-hour segment. There'll be questions and answer periods in between, and Tom will be doing all the moderation of those. That's why I was like, no, wait a minute, we're not there yet. We still have a few weeks away before that actual event. And I'm going to let the other ambassadors talk, and then Emily's going to kind of show some of what we're going to be doing as well. So, Matt.
Yes. Matt, up to you. How are you and what have you been up to? I know you've been extremely busy because I've been following you on Facebook and seeing all the amazing photos and fun time you're having.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. Yeah, I've been doing a little bit of traveling this year, especially as of late. In August, I was leading photo workshops in the Faroe Islands and in Mongolia. Just the other week, I was in Lofoten and Senja, Norway, and I head for the Dolomites of Italy this weekend. And still more travel later on this year in Canada and elsewhere.
Do you have space in your suitcase? So I'll come with you to Italy.
Everything is a well-oiled machine right now. So, I mean, I have it, it's supposed to be 50 pounds, and I got it up to 48, and I don't have room in that suitcase. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll guess. Maybe another time, though. Um, Frank, how are you?
Emily, I'm fine, and thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the upcoming event and to your question about what have I been up to and what have I been doing. I guess the answer is that I'm in Pennsylvania, and this is now our season for fall foliage, and I have been out and about all throughout the state, for that matter, and actually into Jersey and anyway, a couple spots around the area. I'm very fortunate. I live near the Delaware Water Gap, the national recreation area, and 70,000 acres of opportunities to explore. And I have been up there probably on average at least once a week, and in some cases a couple of times a week, starting to capture it. But as far as what's on the horizon, I'm leaving next month for I was going to say the Faroe Islands. You threw me a curve on that, Matt. I'm not following in your footsteps. I'm going to be off the coast of Portugal, and it's an event I'm really looking forward to. This one is with a few of my friends that we traveled together with, And we're going to be spending the better part of 2 weeks there. And then I get back for a brief bit, pack my bags, and I'm pretty excited and stoked because I leave for Antarctica just a couple of weeks after that. And then from a travel perspective, I'm going to be going to another extreme, and that's going to be in Hawaii in the early part of 2025, and a few other trips on the horizon. So lots of activity, lots of things going on. So that's kind of my situation at this point.
That sounds fantastic. Lisa, we are so lucky that, we got Mac and Frank to join us because you guys are so busy. So thank you for making the time for the summit.
Absolutely. And I should clarify, I didn't tell you the location. It's the Azores. I neglected to mention, where I'm going to be off the Portugal coast.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I can't wait to see all the photos that you guys are going to create. Chris, what have you been up to?
Hey, Emily. Thanks for having me tonight. What have I been up to? As summer kind of ended and fall arrived, I've been traveling both for photography and for my day job, kind of all over the Eastern United States. In fact, got to spend some time with Emily and Tom and Lisa up in Maine for our first annual macro and close-up photography retreat, which I see some of the people on the chat now. So welcome for those of you that joined us. It was an awesome event. And, now we're just getting through back to school a couple weeks ago. And in a few weeks from now, I'm heading to Panama with Ambassador Lee Hoy. And we are leading a tour photographing birds and poison dart frogs, but really anything macro for 8 days in Panama coming up in 3 weeks. So a lot of stuff going on.
That is really fun. Yeah, you guys are doing so many fun things. I feel like, I'm in New Hampshire, so beautiful foliage. I can't complain, but I'm very envious of all the places that you guys are gonna go to. And Chris, you were mentioning that we saw each other with Tom and Lisa and Steve and Eric, 2 other OM System ambassadors, and a couple of the people who were at the OM System retreat, our first macro retreat, are actually here. So there's good Cindy. She says, "Hi all, miss you all, Cindy." And then, bad Cindy says, "Here it is. You guys, you will have to join one of our retreats, so about the 2 Cindy's, right? So we just have to tell you, we can't tell you online, but you just have to trust us." And actually, there are a lot of people on the stream from everywhere. Erin from California, Susan from Connecticut, Tim, hey, Arizona. I know he bought us some really good weather when he came to the retreat. So just, if you're too hot, just send it our way. I think in New Hampshire, we're supposed to have some snowflakes on Wednesday. So come back to New Hampshire. And then Yeti from New Hampshire. Hey, yes, get ready because it's gonna snow very soon. And we have Scott. Hey, Scott from Massachusetts. So, and actually, I saw Ron from Chicago. Hey, from Chicago. And the winner tonight might be Kia from New Zealand. Thank you for joining us.
From tomorrow.
From tomorrow.
Yeah.
How is tomorrow?
Is it good or should we just skip it?
And then Kathy from South Carolina. Roger from Massachusetts. Ooh, a lot of people. So from Massachusetts. And then some people are getting hungry because they didn't make it to the retreat. Was an awesome macro retreat, and someone say, "Rub it in." No, you just have to come and try the macro retreat. We actually, Lisa, we still have some space left.
We still do have some spaces left, and I know that Yeti he said, "I don't take up much room. I can come. You can fit me in." But we were capped at 42, and we did not have any cancellations to allow him to be able to get in at the last minute. So I know we're on his radar for getting to not miss out this year.
So hopefully you can still register. I'm going to post the link in the comment as well. But yeah, we have people from everywhere. So I see Pennsylvania, Canada, Michigan, Orlando. Oh, please be so safe. Yeah, this is so scary. So yes, and New York City. So a lot of people are joining us tonight from a little bit everywhere. And it's great that you're joining us from everywhere, because I know that some people were complaining, saying, I mean, I can understand that. Hey, I live in the UK, or I live in Australia, New Zealand. I cannot make it to your workshop, macro workshop. But Lisa had a great idea, and you already talked a little bit about it, the summit. But can you tell us why you decided to do this? And yeah, tell us a little bit more about it.
So definitely part of the impetus was that I had people from Australia say, can't you all fly over here and do it over here? And we definitely are getting people that it's not that easy for them to come to Maine. So we decided that we would then bring us to you through Zoom. So what we're doing is we're celebrating the 3rd birthday of OM System. So this is October 26th, the Saturday, and there will be different programs by us and as well as Joe McDonald. And so we're going to be talking about some of the real cool computational technologies, some of the features that we all love. I think we are naturally, those of us that are ambassadors, but I think also the 42 people that came to the retreat, we have 42 new ambassadors, because once you start to realize the cool computational technologies that are out there, you can't help but kind of sing the praises of our system. When it comes to graduated neutral density, when it comes to being able to do Starry Night. I know somebody recently that went to a night workshop, and she said everybody else was having awful time focusing at night. And she just pressed her button and she's looking around like, why is everybody else having such a difficult time? So the presentation's meant to inspire, to be able to get you into some of the different technologies that are going to be out there, perhaps one that you haven't tried yet, perhaps some new little tricks. And then Tom will be monitoring the chat as well. So there will be a formal question and answer period, be after each presentation, but there might be some things that might be just answerable through the chat as well.
Are we sure about Tom moderating the chat?
Well, his humor goes better in person than it does on the written words. So you just have to understand the puns that might be coming through.
I cannot wait. I'm very excited.
Sometimes, Emily, it's a little dry.
We were driving in the car to a presentation last week. We were doing a live presentation, and we're in the car, and Tom said, and all of a sudden he goes like this, and I'm like, what's the matter with you? I'm like looking at him, and he goes, I am the supersonic dust reduction system. He's like in the car. I thought he was having like a little spaz attack or something. So I made him do it live in front of the entire group when we did our live presentation.
So he's just practicing his jokes on the way on you. Yeah.
So we are expecting a joke for each of the sessions.
Yes, obviously.
There you go.
Or something. And then actually, Kathy is asking, will you be spilling the wheel tonight? I will not be spilling the wheel tonight. I'm very good at spinning the wheel. But you know what? I will spin the wheel for our summit, for the OM System Summit. I will spin the wheel, and it's going to be I'm going to do a good present. I don't know what it is right now, because you just gave me that idea, but there will be a spinning the wheel. And we should have a contest about if anybody can come up with all the jokes that Tom did during all the sessions. There also should be a present.
I think they're forgettable.
Emily, why don't you tell anyone on the stream right now about the wheel? Because I know that anyone from the macro retreat will certainly remember it, but I think there's some other people joining that might not know what the wheel is.
That's true. So during the macro retreat, during lunchtime, we would spend all our lunch together, and I had the wheel on my computer that I would spin with all the names of the participants, and they will win prize. So they won gift card for Hans. They won actually some their own print, thanks to Pro Prints. They won discount cards from OM System. They won AK diffusers. They won tons of presents, thanks to Lisa and Tom. There were some really cute things. There were things I didn't even know existed that people won. And that was amazing. I will never forget that water planter. I will never forget that water planter. So I think that this should just be something we do all the time. So for the summit, I will be spinning the wheel. I'll make sure that we'll have some time to spin the wheel. And we should actually talk a little bit about all the sessions. And I'm going to show you, because I have it right here on the screen. So that is the macro summit is right here. I'm going to post the link in the comments right now, and that's how you register for the session, and that's how the whole day will go. So maybe we should start with Frank. Frank, do you want to tell us a little bit about your session? And I'm going to show a couple of images as well. Go ahead.
Great. So my plan is to, it says near and far, so I'm going to share with you some of the imagery that I've taken, of course, in the United States. And, we were talking earlier about so many of the opportunities in our area, and we have so many. So there will be plenty of places to see what I call locally. And then from the far perspective, I'm going to be sharing imagery from some of my international travels. People have asked me in the past, like what are some of my favorite locations and why, and I'll be sharing some of that. And to the earlier point about the computational features that are in our camera system, I'll be discussing some of those and how they were helpful for me in achieving the results that I wanted to accomplish when I was out in the field. So it's going to be a cadre of local and international. And just that back up there 1 second, that's New Zealand. So whoever that person was that was on, and I think I saw a clarification that the name was not Kia because it meant something in Kiwi, I guess. And any event, I had the opportunity just this past year to spend a couple of weeks in New Zealand. I'll be sharing some of those images. So anyway, whole host of opportunities, both local or near, if you will, and of course across the globe. So looking forward to sharing that.
Great. And the fun thing is that us ambassadors, we can go to all those sessions as well. So we'll be definitely in the comments and we'll be attending. So I can't wait for this. And then we have Joe, who will talk about best technique and settings for wildlife photography. So same, if you go to our main page, you can actually read some of the description for each of the workshop. And one thing is, if you can't be there for the whole day, don't worry about it, because it's going to be recorded and you'll have access to those. And Lisa, can you remind me how long will people have access to those?
So it'll be a 2-week period afterwards so that they can go back and see what they have missed if they weren't able to watch the whole thing, or if they wanted to rewatch one of us.
Very nice. And then my session will all be about refraction and water drop. So that's one thing that I really like to do, especially in the winter. So it's going to be perfect as we're approaching winter season for us here. And I'm going to make sure that after this session, you'll know how to set up your shots and get some hopefully good result. And it's not easy. It requires a lot of patience, but hopefully with the tip that I will give you, you'll have a head start on creating the images that you want to create. And I'll talk about how refraction really also influence my other type of photography. So I'll talk a little bit about bird photography at the end, and bugs photography as well, which will be a good segue, as Chris will be talking about his best techniques for focus stacking and true one-to-one macro photography. So Chris, you want to tell us a little bit about your session?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Emily. So as Emily said, I'm going to really be centering my presentation, my hour, around macro photography. So I almost exclusively shoot macro. Every once in a while I'll shoot something else when the moment's right or the opportunity strikes. But if I'm going out photographing for the day, it's probably looking for insects and spiders. So that's kind of what I'm most into. That's what I specialize in, and that's what I'm going to talk about for the summit. I'm going to talk about really getting up close and personal, I'm going to talk about getting to that one-to-one. Some of you may have heard that term, might not know what it means, but I'm going to clarify what one-to-one is, or 1x magnification, how to achieve one-to-one with the 60 macro or the 90 macro, and even going beyond one-to-one. The 90 macro is actually capable of 2-to-1 or even more with teleconverters. So some of these really, really high magnification macro shots. And then, of course, how we maximize depth of field once you are at those magnifications. Because as you get closer to your subject, your depth of field is inherently going to reduce. And it can be a big challenge. It can be frustrating for people once they realize, okay, I can get focused and I can get my subject large, but nothing seems to be in focus because I don't have enough depth of field. So we'll talk about how to manage that with single photos. And then, of course, as Emily mentioned just a minute ago, how to take advantage of the awesome OM system in-camera focus bracketing and focus stacking features.
Excellent. I cannot wait. Although I've watched those sessions too, because we did some pre-recording when we did the macro retreat. So that was really good. People had access to those as well, which is nice. It's something we want to do when we're doing the retreat as well. Give you already something before you come in, and you put your hands on your camera, and then you put into practice what you've learned as well. And then after Chris, we'll have Lisa, who's going to talk to us about tips and techniques for creative photography. Lisa, do you want to share a little bit?
So I think it was the creative aspects of, at the time, Olympus, now system cameras, that got us hooked into the camera. We were actually leading a workshop doing night photography at a wonderful little lighthouse in an area that had, prone to fog. So we were doing some wonderful night photography, showing people some things. And then the fog came in and there was no more lighthouse. There were no more stars. You couldn't see anything. So we had a whole bag of wonderful light painting tools at our disposal. So Tom is using some of these tools, and I look over, and one of the participants in our workshop, during the exposure, we were making like hearts and love and symbols and circles, and we were trying to make sure like the circles were complete. And I'm watching the back of his camera during this exposure. All the rest of us are on bulb mode. It's completely black no matter how long we have it exposed. And his is able to show what's happening. And I'm like, wait, what magic is this? How do I not know what this is? And so I immediately came home and I called up Hans Photo and I said, I need one of these cameras. And he said, wait 2 weeks. He said, the EM1 Mark II is going to be out in 2 weeks. And we got it. And we thought, we're just going to add this to our current lineup. And some people do that. They will just purchase an OM camera to be able to have as an additional camera. But within just a couple of months, we had sold all of our other equipment and we were using all the computationals. So I think the session that I'm going to be doing is on using some of those other technologies. Some will be discussed in other presentations as well, but kind of talking about cloud stacking, which I know like Frank loves to be able to do cloud stacking, different things that you can do with some of these computational technologies. And I think that's what makes all of us kind of these just organic ambassadors that we talk about the system, because we certainly have people with all different camera systems that come with us, but it just makes it so much more fun and so much more productive that we can get really far with our photography without necessarily having to go into software to be able to do editing with it as well. So I'll touch upon some of the different things that we can do, such as I know, Emily, you just had a video on the graduated neutral density. So if you're not familiar with the OM1 Mark II camera, that particular feature is really unique there, that yes, you couldn't do it in software, but the fact that we don't have to do it in software is phenomenal. And I know it'll be a nice lead in for what Matt's going to talk about as far as the Starry Night and the ability to be able to have like night LV, basically have night vision goggles on. You no longer need to do like the high ISO test shot that you might have been taught to do if you're doing night photography. So I'll let him talk about the last session, which is going to be talking about star trails and Milky Way.
Yeah, thanks. It was interesting listening to your story on your introduction to OM system with the computational photography, because I teach night sky workshops in the Tetons, usually 1 or 2 or sometimes even 3 every year. And before I was with OM system, Olympus back then, I was teaching everyone how to do star trails and doing the 1 minute exposure, and you do 60 of them, and then in software you combine them to get the star trails. And I had one of my clients who just seemed to be not listening to me that much. And I walked over to him and I'm like, you don't seem to be taking a picture every minute. And he's like, no, I don't have to. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Why not? And he's like, well, I have this thing called Live Comp on the back and it does the star trails automatically for me. And I'm like, okay, I don't understand this. And he's like, well, take a look at my screen. And all this, and then I could see the star trails forming on the back of his screen. And yeah, like Lisa, I was like, I got to figure out more about this stuff. So yeah, that's what really got my introduction to the OM system, the computational photography. So I'm going to be talking about the Milky Way and night sky during my presentation, and that is something, again, I do a couple of night sky workshops in the Tetons every year, and I'll be focusing a lot of those images, showcasing a lot of those images from there during the presentation. And actually within the last couple of years, I started doing a couple OM system exclusive Milky Way and night sky photo workshops, and my next one is July of next year. And yeah, I'll be talking about, using different apps to see where the Milky Way is at different times of the year. Talk about using Starry Sky AF to easily focus on the Milky Way, some of my favorite lenses, and also, techniques for live comp, and also settings, of course, for the Milky Way to get the most out of your shots. And I'll even go into a little bit of post-processing on what I use for noise reduction, doing some exposure blending where you do a one exposure for the foreground and then one for the night. And might even talk a little bit about using star trackers too. So I got a lot of material I'm going to be presenting. So it's a good thing you'll be able to hit pause and rewind and watch it again for a couple more times.
Yeah, that's true. It's just easy. You can take notes, or you can just rewatch it again. I'm very excited about this as well. I don't do much night photography, but that's something that really interests me. So I can't wait to learn a little bit more about it. And actually, we have one question. Maybe Lisa, that's something you'll talk about, the difference between ProCapture SH2 and just SH2. There's a big difference between the two. ProCapture is basically like magic.
Yeah, ProCapture is magic. ProCapture is back to the future, right? We can actually travel back in time. So if you're taking pictures of landscape, ProCapture is not going to be of interest to you. I was talking to somebody about frames per second, and they said 50 frames per second. They're like 50 frames per minute, 50 frames per hour. They're like, I'm a landscape photographer. This doesn't mean anything to me. But if you do any kind of action photography, especially with birds and wildlife, it is just amazing. We were waiting this weekend for a heron. He's sitting there. Finally, he went and he got his little prey. Everybody that was on the boardwalk missed it, and the three of us that were using OM cameras were like, oh, wow, that was so cool. And everybody else is looking at us like, how did you get that? So ProCapture will actually put pictures in memory, and it just keeps replenishing the memory. And then when you press the shutter, it captures those pictures from memory and writes them to your card. So you're not necessarily going to take more pictures on SH2 than ProCapture. What you're going to be able to do is just press the shutter when you see that action and not ever miss those things again. And it's really amazing because you see things you never saw before. In the past, I would see a heron and he would kind of jump up into the air and like land on another rock. Now you realize that he actually jumped up in the air, ate an insect, and then landed on the other rock. And you're like, wow, like how is this possible? But speaking to the 50 frames a second, on the OM1 Mark II, you can actually reduce that number. So if you're not photographing a subject that is necessary to do 50 frames a second, you can go to 25 and 16 and 12, and you can kind of program that according to what your subject matter might actually be. Some animals are going to just be faster and require more of those frames per second. Terns, they toss their food up into the air, and then they kind of do this little dance, and it looks like they're a ballerina, and then they actually will catch the fish the right way going down. So some of those, I'll put that up to 25 or 50 frames a second. But like for a green heron, 12 frames a second is absolutely fine. So huge difference between SH2 and ProCapture SH2.
That's true. And Tim says that he loves the versatility of the OM system. And it's true. He hasn't found a genre that the OM1 and lenses cannot do. It's true. Just like give it a challenge. It can do everything, I think, personally.
Yeah. I was one day photographing macro. I was doing focus stacking on these wonderful shells. This was a huge mound of shells that fishermen had left behind. And there was a completely cloudy day, no sun, no chance of a sunset. And we were just doing macro. We kind of had the 90 millimeter lenses and that was it. And then all of a sudden, 5 minutes before sunset, the sky cleared and everything turned magenta. And I just quickly like, all right, live neutral density, boom, boom, boom. And like 3 clicks. And then I was photographing a minute exposure in these old piers and the water was all flat. And I'm like, wow, like what system could you be at 2x magnification doing focus stacking and then literally 10 seconds later be doing live neutral density on it?
None, that's what. And then Gordon said, I can see the OM1 being a great fit for macro and star, but do any of you use the OM5 for the same? Actually, Frank and Matt, you've used the OM5 extensively, and you had the OM5 when before it was even released, if I remember well.
Yeah,
I know, Frank, you were in the Dolomites with it.
It's a great tool, and the power that's in that OM5, it's like the EM1 Mark III, very similar, but in a smaller compact. And I do a lot of hiking, and I'm carrying my gear in some pretty tough spots. Weight's always important to me, and I had that as my camera when I was in Patagonia. And there's a YouTube video you can see on some of the imagery that it was created. I thought, well, am I going to sacrifice by not using some of my other gear? And there was no sacrifice to be had. It really is a good powerhouse.
Yeah, it's a fantastic camera, and I've used it for a lot of night sky shots and time lapses and live comp. And yeah, just what Frank said. I mean, it's a tiny, small camera, lightweight, and it's fun to use. It's fun having all that power in such a tiny camera body.
Absolutely.
I think that's one of the things you see on social media. As I see sometimes people ask, well, which camera should I buy? And you can't answer that question unless you know more. So what are you photographing? Should they upgrade? Should they get a OM5? If they have an OM5, should they upgrade to that? And I think you have to make sure that you ask that question of what are they photographing? If they're doing night and they don't have an OM5 and they're looking to upgrade from one of the previous EM bodies, they're going to see big differences on that. But if they're not doing, bird photography, that's going to be the biggest difference by jumping from the OM5 to the OM1s. But you have to ask that additional question. I even hear people say, well, like, what flash setting should I use? Are you photographing people or insects? Or, what are you photographing? You can't answer that question until you know the more of the story.
And I'm putting to Frank and Matt's YouTube channel in the chat so you can go and follow them because they have amazing videos as well. Just, if you have a question, just go and watch their videos and you'll find the answers. And I will put that as well in the description of this video so you can go and follow them. I really enjoy watching their videos and learning about the different techniques. So, they're right there. And I'm going to also put Lisa, because I know, Lisa, you just started your YouTube channel not that long ago.
Yes, thank you.
So here it is. Chris, when are you starting your YouTube channel?
No time soon.
Oh, no.
A lot of work.
That is
Exactly.
It is, but it's really fun too.
We'll just keep asking him to be on all of ours so he doesn't have to do the work, but yet he gets to be able to divulge all his great information.
There you go. Well, so I think that's a perfect segue, Lisa. I wanted to say before we wrap this up that anyone that signs up for this summit on the 26th, I think that it's a really nice opportunity. We didn't mention, I don't think, that it's one price and you get all of the presentations, right? So you pay once, you stay for the day, and then you get access for the couple of weeks to follow. But even if you've seen any or all of us present before, or you've even been in person, or you've seen us at a camera club or whatever, while there may be some redundant content to what you've already seen, this is kind of a unique opportunity because we will be available for Q&A. You can talk to us during, and of course, we're always changing our presentations and evolving them and adapting to new things that we or new things that we think will resonate with people. So, I think I speak for everyone when I say I hope that you can join and take advantage of getting all of this content kind of all in one place at one time.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. And I think for those of you that signed up, I know like Cindy Roper, when she signs up, she always shares that going forward. I know not everybody's on social media, but when you share that, we appreciate that too, because the algorithms on social media are such that we've had sometimes people say, oh, I wish I had known. So we really do appreciate it when all of you share as well.
Yeah,
Emily.
so please go ahead, Frank.
I was going to say, I do have a little bit of a bonus for tonight. If you think it's appropriate, if you could give us the full screen of the presenters. I have with me my assistant that very few people get to see. And so with your permission, I would like to share my assistant here. Cooper.
Yes, please.
Hurry up. Here's my assistant. I don't know if you can see him.
Oh,
It's so cute.
Oh, geez.
Say hi.
There he is.
This is my hiking companion. He goes with me out in the field, and he came down and just wanted to say hi to everybody. So anyway, I thought I'd introduce you to him. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's great.
Oh my God, no, it's so cute.
That's great.
We do have like different assistants that come in. So we have Cooper, we have Zoom.
Kodak.
Kodak. Zoom is not here because usually he's around.
Kodak and Zoomy are under my feet, and I can't move around. If you see me moving, that's because I can't move my feet, and I have to like little throw rugs. I have to move them with my feet, but they're good.
They're pretty cute. Matt, do you have any assistants with you?
I do, but he is taking a nap on the couch in the other room right now.
So maybe we'll get to meet him during the summit.
So I'll see if I can bring him out. He's a 11-year-old blue heeler who's just adorable.
Nice. And Chris too, you have an assistant?
Oh, I do. I have 3 of them. I have my dog and then my 2 8-year-old children. But they're all behaving themselves right now, and I'm not going to disturb that.
I don't hear any noise.
Exactly.
This is really good.
Yeah.
And I'll find a spider or something, and I'll bring the spider with me as my assistant.
Our dogs know too when we're on Zoom, and they know like we're doing something we shouldn't be disturbed. But the minute like we'll say like take care or bye, like they're Springer Spaniels, and they literally like spring up like, okay, now we get our parents back type of thing. They know.
And people are saying, "Oh wow, adorable." They're not talking about you, Chris. They're talking. They're talking about our assistants.
Mm-hmm.
So here it is. Excellent. So, well, I think we have one last question because I said that we would take a few questions, and I know that it's already been 14 minutes that we've been on YouTube. So thank you everybody who join us. But we'll take maybe that last question before we stop the stream. And this one is from Susan. She has a quick question about the EE1 dot sight. Is it a good accessory for bird photography? I personally have never tried it or used it. So any of you have experience with it?
So I think if you have a fixed lens, I think it can be useful, and it can shorten your learning curve. But I think it depends on kind of what kind of photography and how you're doing it. So we go to Conowingo quite a bit, and you'll see a lot of dot sights there. The birds can be a little bit far away, and your challenge is to get the eagles as they're kind of coming in for the fish. So in some instances, it can be really helpful.
Yeah, I think in particular with the 300. So if you're using a 300 prime, where it can be kind of hard to orient yourself in that field of view, where you don't have the ability to kind of zoom out and then zoom into whatever you're trying to photograph, the dot sight can be really good.
Frank, what's your experience with it?
So I think, to some of the points made already, it's another tool that we have to help us with that. And if you're new to bird photography, the first few times can be frustrating, and it's difficult because if you're so let's say you're using a 600 millimeter or whatever, and it's a 1200 millimeter full frame equivalent, you're trying to get that thing. It's it's tough. And again, fortunately, through years and years of practice, it does become easier. But when I first ventured into it, I was using the 300 millimeter for that, and that's going back 5+ years ago, and I found it to be helpful. But truth be told, I don't use it anymore, and I think just because my eye has been trained to be able to know where to look with it. But I think it's a helpful tool, and I don't recall the economics on it. It's not an expensive piece of equipment because it's not electronically connected in that regard. But
they are kind of hard to find sometimes, because actually there was I think it was like a Petapixel article, or someone wrote an article about how helpful it was, and other users of other systems started buying dot sights because they realized that they could use them with other lenses. So it's not just the OM customers that are buying them. So if you have a hard time finding one, it's probably why.
Susan, I think you have the 100 to 400. The best bet is probably put it on 400 and to start with cars, and then go to like horses or dogs, and like don't zoom. Like just go to low stakes place. So start with cars, horses, dogs, then gulls, and then you still have the zoom for it when you need it. But if you kind of, as Frank said, if you get kind of practicing, you'll be able to kind of achieve the same thing as if you had that.
Yeah, and a lot of questions about bird photography. So it's interesting because we actually also have a nature retreat. We should do another live so we can talk a little bit more about this nature retreat in November. You can already start signing up for it with the link that I'm going to put in the description. It's going to be in November, and we're very excited. We'll do bird photography, we'll do macro photography, we'll do a lot of different genres. So stay tuned. We're going to have a live very soon. We'll tell you a little bit more about it as well. And I think we should just close with Cindy's remark. She's so looking forward to October 26th. We are as well. And you're right. I'm sure it's going to be very fun because we have Tom. It's going to be educational because we have all of us. So we're super excited to spend some time with all of you and answer any questions that you have. It's always fun, to meet other OM system photographers. And I want to thank all of you for taking the time to come in on my channel so we can talk a little bit more about the summit and interact with all the OM system users out there. If you have questions, if you're watching this after, just put them in the comments, and all of us will probably go and answer questions. So don't hesitate to do that. And I again invite you to go and check Matt, Frank, and Lisa's channel on YouTube. So you could also get a lot of educational videos and answers from them. And I want to thank you guys for coming. I can't wait to spend October 26th with all of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Emily.
Absolutely, great.
Thank you very much. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.